This moon phase vary based on location, more specifically, location on Earth. Well, the answer is yes. The sun and the moon and its phases vary depending on location on Earth. But why? Well, the moon is illuminated by the light of the sun, which observers on Earth see reflected off the lunar surface. As the moon moves around the Earth, the amount of illumination it receives changes, obviously, creating the lunar phases, aka the moon phases. But that just makes things confusing, because wouldn't it be the same for everyone? Well, it is the same in a scientific context, but perceived differently because of the angle at which the moon is seen. For example, in the southern hemisphere, people see the moon upside down or flipped. So the side which is shining or sunlit seems the opposite from the northern hemisphere. Think about it like this. In the northern hemisphere, a first quarter moon will look like a growing D, right? It'll look like this, and it'll grow maybe. While in the southern hemisphere, it may look like a C, or a backwards D. So while they appear different, they're still the same moon phase, and still the same thing. They just appear different. Galileo Galilei is a common astronomer people think of when the moon is brought up. He really did nothing except figure out that the moon has mountains. But how did they get there? Well, mountains on the moon, sounding like the hottest album of 2022, are the result of impacts by asteroids in the distant past. You see, when these impacts happen on the moon and planets, they form craters far larger than the ones that we see today because they were in the distant past, and these things were just giant and falling out of the sky like 24/7, hitting the moon left and right. But you see, these craters form such things like the lunar maria, leaving the rims that form lunar mountain ranges. But what does this mean to humans? Does this mean we can go climb moon mountains? Does this mean that there are moon activities? Let's think. Moon sports. Type that into Google and there was basically nothing, but there was just one guy named Shepard who hit a golf ball on the moon. He missed the first swing and then hit it the second time, and obviously it went far. And this is because the moon's gravity is measured at 1.62 meters squared per second, while Earth is at 9.807 meters squared per second. Now, a common mistake would be to say that, oh, well, since Earth is at 9.8 and Moon is at 1.6, then that means that the moon's gravity is 1/9. But it's actually 1/6 when the math is correctly done. So, how would this affect moon sports? Well, this makes pretty much any common sport that we play on Earth unplayable. Basketball, football, golf, I mean anything with a ball. But take away the ball and what sports do we have? Well, moon swimming. How is swimming different on the moon? This is something that I actually wanted to ask myself. I Googled, and really the only difference between the pool on Earth and a pool on the moon is, well, low gravity, obviously. See, the reason we float in water is because of the water we displace. Specific gravity is actually the comparison of densities and is used to calculate how, in this case, a human body floats on water. If the specific gravity of something is less than water, then the body will float. The weight of our body and the weight of the water would be less on the moon, but the ratio of the specific gravity still exists and therefore would not change. You see, the density values would change because we're on the moon, but you have to remember that the specific gravities have a ratio and would change at the same percentage, meaning that there'd basically be no difference, and it'd be kind of lame. So who owns the moon? Answered in a Vsauce video, the short answer is that no one owns the moon. That's because of a piece of international law known as the Outer Space Treaty of 1967. This was put together by the United States, saying that space belongs to no one country. More specifically, the Common Heritage of Mankind Principle, or CHP for short, which affirms that the natural resources of the deep seabed and the outer space are held in common by all nations, meaning the moon and everything else in outer space belongs to all of us, and only all of us. does this mean we can still colonize the moon? Well, moon colonization has been a thing for years. John Wilkins, a clergyman, philosopher, and author who wrote in a discourse concerning a new planet. Nice name for a book, dude. About the colonization of the moon. And this was all the way back in the first half of the 7th century. You see, colonization of the moon has been a thing forever, but the material process of it has been taking place since the first artificial objects reached the moon, which is 1959. Have we colonized the moon yet? Well, technically we have, meaning that we've sent artificial and just human beings to the moon. But could we live on the moon? Well, unlike the gaseous form we breathe in on Earth, the oxygen on Earth is trapped inside regolith, a layer of rock and dust from which the moon's surface is made. As it turns out, this oxygen that is trapped on the moon can sustain a human colony of 16 billion people for over 50,000 years, meaning the only thing stopping us from living on the moon is a reliable and renewable energy source for supply. Although NASA is developing power generation systems that can support longer stays on the lunar surface, additional energy infrastructure will be needed to make human settlement on the moon a reality. But it is possible. Thank you for watching.